because for me, I actually worked in the technology industry, and it's actually a male-dominated industry.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually, I wanted to share that because I wanted to actually pick up on your point about mentorship. And you know that I actually worked for a big multinational company since I graduated from university here, and worked at IBM. And it was a very male-dominated.
So I was at IBM too.
Were you at IBM?
Yeah,
too?
actually, that's right. Yeah, you missed my story. So
Yes,
I used to work at IBM as well. Yeah.
Yes, so I was at IBM, male-dominated. In fact, that's where I met my husband, but that's a different story. And also, I think I really appreciate, because as an Asian woman, we are actually, it's a double whammy, because not only are you female, you're also Asian. And so if you want to rise up the ranks,
That's right.
you're actually, there's a ceiling, there's a glass
See,
ceiling.
that's what I was saying before. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? There's a glass ceiling. But I have to say, I also wanted to raise a family. So we also knew at that time, right? So I that was in the 80s when I started my career. And raising a family and having a career seems to be very difficult. You need to be superwoman. But I have to say, you need the support, right? My husband was very supportive. He said, I have 3 children. And I ended up becoming a role model for my own girls as well. I have 2 girls and a boy. But they're grown up now. But let me talk about my journey, right? Because as an IT person, right, growing up, like we Asians, we also tend to be more submissive. Whatever somebody tells you, your boss, what they say, you do.
That's right.
Right? And we have to learn. In fact, I was so appreciative because IBM actually treated their female employees very, very, very well. In fact, our previous CEO was a female, right? The first, she was Ginny. And so IBM treated them well, but I also knew that we had to grow, because a lot of women actually, for the sake of raising a family, they would quit their jobs. So I didn't want to also give up on my children, and I had to find a way. So I think even eventually my husband ended up being a stay-at-home husband to look after my kids while I worked. And I was so lucky that way, so lucky. So, but I also really, really appreciate the fact that we have other women, because I ended up, by the time I left IBM about 5 years ago, I had already become an executive. I really rose up the ranks to become an executive. And I could not have done that without the support of another female mentor.
Right.
I had mentors. So for me, mentorship is a very, very big thing for women, right? Because when I had my kids, I took long leaves of absence because I wanted to be with my kids as much as I can, right? But because, and I have almost said, okay, if I have to work part-time so I can raise my family, I'm okay with that. But then if it wasn't because of another female executive who actually saw my potential and said, you could do both, right? I think for me, that was really the motivating factor. And she said, you should just give it a shot. You're here anyway. Just do it, right? And then as I did it, I grew up the ranks. And so now I also did a lot of during my stint there, I actually helped a lot of other women as well, because I mentor other women. And it's really very, very gratifying, because women, we tend to have more choices. You only have so many years to have children. And if you miss that, you miss that. So, and I also see a lot of women executives who actually give up having children.
Right.
And so for me, I was very
It's a
lucky.
sacrifice.
It is a sacrifice, right? And so I think for us, you have to decide, what do you want, right? So I feel very lucky because my husband was willing to stay home. But, you know, we need to get, we are never super, I mean, you need self-care too. So I think at some point, I know I would say my husband always tells me that he's the last man on the totem pole. I take care of everything else, and then him I don't look after, but he looks after our children, right? So now it's give back time, right? And I think after learning all that, I still mentor a lot of other women, a lot of other young women who are growing up the ranks, going into technology, because technology is a field that women shy away from.
That's right.
Really, they shy away from.
Yeah, science,
Yes, so I do want to encourage more women to do that, because we have our strengths. And I find that women are excellent managers, because that's really where I kind of shone. And so I mentor other women as well who are entering this field. And I'm so happy I'm mentoring my own daughters, because I'm being a role model. My daughter, I went to Stanford University. Another one is pursuing her PhD in the London School of Economics right now. And I'm telling them, you know what? You don't need a man if you don't have one. You don't need a man if you don't need one, right? You can do it, right? As a female, now of course, if you find the love of your life, sure, go ahead, right? But there's no reason to think that you cannot make it, right? Because if you can find other support from other women as well, anything is possible.